Hi, I'm really pleased to be joined today by Jane Wiggill from Red Nose. Hi, Jane. How are you?
I'm well, Lisa. How are you?
I'm good. I understand you're chief midwife of Red Nose. What does the
Yeah.
chief midwife of Red Nose do?
Oh, lots and lots and lots of different things. I'm spread quite thin across the organisation, but it's a lovely position to be in because you can help families from a grassroots level, but then you can help contribute to really fantastic pieces of work and strategy and things like that that we need to continue our work. So yeah, it's a lovely position.
That's great. Look, I've promised all the family daycare educators that are watching this video that I'd ask you one question first off, because it just doesn't make sense well, it does make sense to me, so I'm presuming it doesn't make sense to them. Why do we put babies to sleep at the bottom of the cot? Everything else kind of makes sense, and don't have toys in the cot, etc. But why at the bottom?
Yeah. Yeah, well, this one actually speaks directly to our second safe sleep recommendation, which is about keeping the baby's head and face uncovered. And that's for two really important reasons. The first reason is to make sure that we don't obstruct a baby's airway in any way, shape, or form. And we know that babies, particularly young babies that are sort of 6 months of age or less, are preferential nose breathers. And so if we cover their face in any way, shape, or form, we're increasing their risk of suffocation and asphyxiation. So that's the first reason. The second reason is because we know that babies modulate their temperature, or they regulate their temperatures through their face and through their head. And we need to make sure that we don't interfere with that in any way, because overheating is a significant risk factor of SIDS as well. And so by placing baby down the bottom of the cot with their feet touching the bottom and bringing bedding just up to the level of the chest, you're preventing that baby from wriggling down under the covers and accidentally overlaying the face to asphyxiate and the
Ah.
head to overheat. And that's the reason. And it's
Okay,
kind of,
that makes sense. I just couldn't
yeah,
work out the wriggling bit. Yeah.
yeah, because we all move in our sleep, whether we're an adult or whether we're a baby. We're not still like, so that's what we have to always make sure, that if we're going to wriggle, we don't have very far to go.
Fair
So,
enough.
yeah.
And can you tell me, I understand that the rate of cot death SIDS, is so much less than what it used to be in the 90s. Have we really just managed, or has your organisation really just managed to do that by educating families and educators and everyone else about how to put babies to sleep? Is that what's happened?
Well, it really was the most successful public health campaign that ever was in this country. And I know I say that and I sound horribly biased, but it really was, because we saved well over, or we continue to, but we've saved well over 10,000 babies' lives now. And it's just through really excellent research, people that are really willing to help translate that into great education, and then people willing to be engaged and listen and keep the conversations going. Because as soon as we stop educating and we stop speaking about the importance of safe sleeping, those numbers can and will increase. So it's about asking questions all the time, being interested, slowing down and stopping for a moment and checking, is this a safe situation for a baby to sleep in? Are the airways compromised in any way? Is there something I can do to help that baby help itself?
And one of the things that our Department of Education is telling family daycare educators is that they have to check a baby every 10 minutes when it's sleeping. What are they actually checking at that point? What should
Yeah,
they be checking?
yeah. So there's two parts to the checking that are really important. And it's not only the frequency of the checking, but it's actually the quality of the checking. So we don't want to be glancing through a window or quickly opening a door to sort of have a bit of a look. We want the viewing of the child to be really diligent, active, and really effective, like really going up beside that child and having a really good look. And it's about the rise and fall of the chest, it's the color of the skin, and it's just taking note of, gee, does that baby look the right color? Does it look the same as it did when I put it down for a sleep? Are they having trouble breathing? Are they breathing too quickly? Is that a funny sound coming from them when they breathe? I don't know. All of these things should evoke some kind of emotion or ring some bells to make you think, I think I need to escalate. So we need to be, because we could open the door and check a baby, and a baby could appear to be sleeping, but that baby could be in respiratory distress. And babies can and do go into respiratory distress silently. So it's really important that we go up to the children and have a look. Don't disturb them. You don't need to. Just have a good look at them. Skin, work of breathing, and then go from there.
But we're all really worried, like, it's been a while since I've had to take care of sleeping babies, but by the time I got them to sleep, I didn't want to disturb them. There was the chance I'd wake them up again. How do you manage that?
I know it's a tricky thing, isn't it? Especially when you've got, I mean, you're in the family daycare setting, but when you have parents that are really tired and they're really desperate, but it's about empowering yourselves and parents with really safe settling strategies, but understanding that, when your baby wakes up, it's waking up for a reason. It's normal infant and child behavior, even though you just want to drink a cup of tea that's actually hot. We've all been there. I'm a parent as well. But, the arousal from sleep that occurs is actually an airway protection reflex. It's one of the 5 airway protection reflexes that babies have inbuilt. And we know that one works best, in fact, when the baby's on its back in the sleep environment. So I know
what are the others?
The others.
Yeah.
So we've got a suck, so sucking, swallowing, gagging, vomiting, and waking up from sleep. And the 2 that work really well in particular when they're on their back in the sleep environment is swallowing and waking up from sleep. So you kind of think, oh God, I don't really want you to wake up from sleep 10 times a night. But we need them to, because it's an airway protection reflex that they're doing. It's normal and it's healthy and it's important. And we also need parents to know that too. It's okay. I know your kid woke up 10 times in the night. No, it's dreadful for you. You must be so tired. But guess what? Your kid's really healthy, doing all the right things it's meant to do. It's really good. Hang in there.
Okay. What about blankets compared to sleep suits? Which is better and why? And
it's really up to it's parent choice when it comes to the bedding that you use, to an extent. So if you've got a really young baby, so a baby that's not yet rolling, you might consider wrapping that baby in a muslin or a cotton or a bamboo wrap. And then you'll place that baby feet to the bottom of the cot on their back. And then you'll put some lightweight bedding just up to the level of the chest and firmly tuck that baby in. And that's a beautiful and safe way to sleep a baby. Once that baby looks as though it's approaching the milestone of rolling, so it hasn't rolled yet, we're just on our way. You can see, you get a few clues when you're playing on the floor that this is going to happen soon. You need to unwrap the baby, have the arms out, and you choose a sleep bag that is really well fitted across the chest and the neck, because you don't want babies, when they lift their arms up, as they do, to pull it up over their heads and fall into the bag, which can happen, covering the face and the head, so they overheat and they can asphyxiate. So you want a bag that is well fitted across the neck and chest, sleeves or armholes, and no hoods or head coverings. And they're the safest sleep bags to use. And if you choose to pop a baby in a sleep bag, you want one with design specifications as I've described, but then you don't need to use blankets, because that's essentially your bedding all in one. That makes sense? So it's either. It's either.
And what about in family daycare? Sometimes parents will give you instructions or requests that would contradict with what Red Nose would say. Like they'll say, oh, look, she always sleeps better if you just put her in the pram, wheel the pram a bit, and then just let her sleep in the pram. How do we as family daycare educators go about, explaining red nose recommendations to parents?
Yeah, that is really, really hard. I understand where you're coming from totally. I think it is really important that you remind the parents that it's your responsibility. Once they hand their precious child over to you, you then have a duty of care to keep that baby or that child as safe as you possibly can. And the way that you're going to do that is to follow the Red Nose Safe Sleep recommendations, because Red Nose is the national authority in safe sleeping. And that's what you need to say to them, because if you go outside of that, you're suddenly outside of scope for yourselves. You're not protected. And then if something catastrophic happens in your care, what then? So you turn to those parents and you say, I understand, but when I'm caring for your baby, I have a duty of care to your baby and to you to protect that baby. And in doing so, we follow the Red Nose Safe Sleep recommendations.
That sounds like a wonderful response to me.
Yeah, because
what about educators? Like, some educators are young, some educators are slightly more my age, right?
Yeah.
And some of us think, oh yeah, look, I never did this with my children. I put them to sleep on the ground. Like whatever worked.
Yes.
And so, because of our own experiences as parents and grandparents, we can be a bit cynical about some of the recommendations.
I can understand that. I can understand the cynicism, but I would turn it around, and I view it in a different way. And that what was done in the past, what you did for your children, and what and those before, you as mothers did the best that you could do with the information that you had. Now 40 years have gone past, and we've had the luxury of time, and in that time we've had research. We've had a good chunk of time where we've got some answers and we've learnt some things now. So now look at what we've got. We're going to do the best with what we've got now, because now we know. It's like, I guess if you compare it to seat belts, back in the day there were no seat belts, but now everybody has a seat belt, because we've had the luxury of time, research, we've got some answers, so now we're going to implement them.
Yeah, okay. That sounds pretty good to me. If there was, last question, if there was, like, I know that Red Nose has a number of recommendations, but if there was one thing you could say to family daycare educators, what is it that you'd say to them?
I would say that I'd say two things. Most importantly, to always place babies to sleep on their back. And that's because those beautiful airway protection reflexes work best in that position. And we're going to allow that baby to help itself as much as we can. And then wherever you're placing that baby to sleep, it must be a safe sleep environment. So it needs to be free of anything that could potentially pose risk to that baby's beautiful airway. So we don't want loose blankets, we don't want lambswools or bumpers or toys or anything in that space that is provided for that child that could potentially add risk. So if you see something in there, just get it out. Remove as much risk from that baby as possible. Keep those babies really safe and continue doing an amazing job.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us. It's been really good to talk to you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.